You are all set.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I want to welcome everybody to the Personnel Committee meeting. And Rebecca, what's the first resolution? For minutes, I mean. Got a
Would you like
motion
me to
for
do the
minutes?
roll first?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I thought Lynn
All
gave
right.
me a rundown, but it's okay, Rebecca. All right,
Just for the public. Mr. Ethier,
all right. Here,
Kuhn,
Here.
Drake, Grimm,
Here.
Ray Joyce,
Present.
Dukakis,
Here.
Reedy,
Here.
Simpson, and Ward.
Here.
7 present, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Rebecca. Take a motion for previous minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Anybody opposed? It's unanimous. All right, Rebecca, what's the first resolution?
Item 2 is appointment of the members to the Albany County Planning Board. This has been tabled at the request of sponsor. Item
Table it.
Item 3 is resolution number 448, amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding health insurance benefits for retirees to allow for utilization of qualifying years of veteran service to apply to the qualifying years necessary to become eligible for health insurance benefits. And the chairman, Mr. Joyce, is here. to speak.
Hey.
Oh, go ahead, Andrew. You want to talk on that?
Yeah, thank you, Majority Council. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. Collins is available to answer any specific questions. Detailed fiscal note went out this afternoon on this. It's just another benefit that we're offering to Albany County employees. We're talking a lot about retention and retaining good employees and taking care of veterans. And I think this does all of those things. And hopefully we can get this out tonight with a favorable recommendation and help our retirees with their health benefits.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any questions on this?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the fiscal note, which I got this afternoon. So it's great to have a fiscal note when we're considering the bills, especially in light of last night's discussion. But I do have some questions on it. The last paragraph of the fiscal note is, at most, it appears a handful of employees each year would be benefited by this adjustment of a cost of about 11 to 12,000 per individual. A handful of employees means what exactly?
So, Mr. Ether and Chairman, I can handle that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Go ahead, Pat.
We're not going to have that many veteran employees retiring each year with this qualifying service and actually having 3 years of service that they could tag on to their county service. So there's just not that many people. If immediately it's less than 8 that
So,
would possibly qualify.
so Patrick, if you had 3 years of military service, or any year, 5 or 7 or 8, the cap is 3, right?
Correct.
And you had 12 years of the county, you would combine those for 15?
If you are 55, yes, you can
Or
combine it.
55. And they bump into Medicare's, which kind of helps to diminish the cost.
At the back end, yes.
Now, I have a question. I know if you work 10 years in the county, 10 in the state, and you retire, don't both the municipalities pitch in to retirement? And I wonder, do the feds pitch in at all for the?
Well, I think you may be confusing 2 parts. One, we have the New York State retirement system, where if you left the county and went to the state, you're still in the New York State retirement system. That's not this benefit. This benefit is health insurance.
So because I'm just wondering, typically, I think that if you're with the state for 10 and the county for 10, they each have to contribute to the retirement. Have I got that right?
Your employer is contributing to the New York State retirement plan during your employment with them.
Oh, okay. So here, the feds they wouldn't contribute anything. The feds wouldn't contribute for anything for the 3 years towards.
No, that's not expected.
Okay. So, so a handful's like, you're talking like 5 times 12, about 60,000 a year then, if it's a handful?
At most, but I honestly don't expect it. Or it's not just me. We researched this. That'd be on the high end.
Yeah, no, I appreciate doing the fiscal because I know it's really important that we have fiscal notes, and this seems like it's really reasonable. So, especially for our veterans. So, be sure to put me as a co-sponsor, okay?
And Mr. Ethier, Ms. Dukakis has her hand raised as well.
Go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead, Lynn.
Lynn, you're muted.
Mute myself. Thank you, Gil.
Fine.
I fully support this, and I don't want my remarks to, by any chance, negatively impact the strength of my support for this, but I am wondering, I don't like to keep making small amendments to these regulations for employees. We talked about we talked about going over the whole book, and we talked about it probably a year ago about going over all the rules and having a substantive look at all the rules, and we haven't done it. And I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, if you've made any progress in that realm, and if we can get it on the timeline so that we can begin working on it seriously and have an end date in mind. That's the first question. And the second question is, I'm sorry that I missed the attachment because it was not attached to Granicus when I was reviewing my Granicus today. So I just wanted to share that I did eventually, luckily, look at it a half an hour ago, but it would have been great to have it a little sooner. But again, like I said, I fully support this and I'm going to vote yes.
Yeah, I think the question was,
Go ahead, Andrew.
no, the question was, when are we going to dig into rules reform? Is that the question?
I'll dig into the the personnel rules for the employees. We talked about that in this committee quite a few months ago. And I just wondered if that was still something that we
Yeah,
wanted to
again,
do.
that work is being done at the comptroller's level on HR. And Patrick, I'm going to have to again defer to you and ask if there's been any substantial update with the updating of the county rules and regulations.
I've been working with Lynn to try and bring something to fruition, and I'm happy to continue working on it.
Okay, we'll keep working on it then. All right, then, let's not stop.
Mr. Ether, Ms. Lockhart has her hand raised. Ms. Lockhart has her hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead, Gene. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I'm not a member of the committee, but I just was wondering if I could respectfully ask be added to this resolution.
Certainly can.
Thank you.
Any more questions on it? Take a motion.
I'd love to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Everybody in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
No opposition? Okay. Unanimous?
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
You're
Andrew.
welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. What's next, Rebecca?
Item 4 is. Item 4 is confirming the appointment of the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services. Ms. McClave is here, as is the Executive Office, I believe.
Any questions for the commissioner, the newbie commissioner? Would you like to say a few words, Commissioner?
Just that I'm honored to be asked to continue serving in this very, very important role, and the work that DSS does really, really matters. And hopefully we're able to make a little bit of a difference in our community among those that are the most needy and vulnerable. And there's a lot of work to do. But I thank the county executive for putting my name forward again for another term.
It's well deserved. Any other questions for the commissioner?
I'll make a motion.
Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations and good luck.
Congratulations.
All right, the last item, item 5, is authorizing Shaker Place Rehabilitation and Nursing Center to consider out-of-county applicants for the positions of registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, and certified nursing assistant. And Mr.
I
Slack.
believe, Larry, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. As most of us know, there's really a shortage of healthcare workers in general, but more specifically, those within our nursing department, which are the 3 titles mentioned: registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, and certified nursing assistants. We have been diligently sorting qualified people within our county, and clearly, if there's applicant resides in Albany, they always take preference over someone outside the county. But we have so many openings. We really hire all qualified people to fill vacant positions. This has been in place. I'm actually submitting it a little late. I apologize for that. That's on me. This would take us to the end of next year. I don't know that the crisis is going to be over by then, but it's been tradition to do a year at a time. So this will take us to the end of 2022. Hopefully things will change. And to fill vacant positions, we need to retain people within the county and outside of the county.
Mr. Ward
Any
has his hand
questions
up.
for Larry?
Yeah.
Mr. Ward has his
Yes,
And Sean,
thank you. Mr. Slacky, I'm hearing, I think everybody on this committee knows that I'm a stickler for the residency rule. And, and I believe in residency, but I also understand that we have a huge shortage of healthcare workers. But I'm also hearing from other legislators that are not on this committee and some of your employees that we're having a hard time filling a lot of positions up there, and even some non-healthcare positions, and they're concerned, about that. And I would have no objection, and this is going against the grain for me, but I would have no objection, given the state of affairs as I know it, going on in the healthcare world, to extending that even past a year, and even extending some of the titles if what I'm hearing is true.
Well, right now, if that's a question to me, the positions that we're having extreme difficulty filling right now with those within Albany County would be our security officers and the titles within our dietary department, which is
Right.
cook and food service helper. Other than that, we've been very successful in keeping to the hiring of Albany residents in all other departments. I don't
Yeah.
see any emergent situation within the nursing home other than dietary, security, where we've had vacant positions now for around 3 or 4 months. And of course, that stimulates overtime. So
Right,
we
and
cover the shifts.
that's the other thing. We aren't necessarily saving by not having employees, because you bring others in, we end up burning them out, as you know, as we all know.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I would have no objection personally. I'm one legislator. If there's other titles that we're having a tough time with, to add those on, to a resolution. Maybe you can get the titles that you think are affected right now. I'm not speaking for the chair, but maybe the chair could hold a meeting, before the meeting, before the ledge meeting, and get that authorized if it's as dire as I hear it is.
Yeah, it would be those few titles. There's 2 titles, or maybe 3 in the dietary department and security. And that's it, other than the ones mentioned in this letter
Okay.
that I've written to the committee.
Larry, excuse me, Rebecca,
Yes, Mr. Chairman?
would it be possible to add those positions now onto this resolution? And bring it to the full
Unfortunately,
floor?
due to the number of changes, it would probably not be possible to change it to this resolution, but you could always put Mr. Slatke another RLA in, and we could do it either in the next cycle, or we could have a post-public forum meeting on December 6th of the Personnel Committee to hear it then. That way it would still pass at the same time as this.
I would prefer that. If the case is as bad as I hear it is, I think we should act on this right away. That's my personal opinion.
Any other opinion on the committee? Any other opinions?
Mr. Grimm and Mr. Kuhn both have their hands raised as well.
okay,
Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean, would you be okay extend, I think the 1 year, we got to drag Hillary in here 1 year every year. Would you be okay if we extended the term of this allowance? I'd like to even go to 3 years. Are you okay with that?
Well, I prefer the 1 year. I always preferred the 1 year when I was chairman of personnel because it really doesn't take a lot to ask. It's an RLA and appearing before the committee, and most of the time they're appearing anyway. However, I wouldn't mind extending that to 2 years because I know these are probably circumstances that we haven't encountered in my 27 years here. It used to be a line of people trying to get jobs anywhere, and that's not the case right now. So it's an employer's world or employees' world right now. They have the upper hand, and
Yeah, okay, that's a big step more to go from 1 to 2. So yeah,
technical difficulties. I'm sorry. So I wouldn't mind extending it 2 years, but I don't think it's a big issue to come back to us every year and ask. We really are not, unless somebody really hasn't done their homework. We've granted it every time. I can only remember one time where we rejected a request because we didn't think there was enough work done hiring in-house, or in county.
well, okay, I'd like to make a motion to extend it to 2, if you're okay with that, Sean.
Well, that would be up to the chair.
Oh.
I'm sure he'll entertain that motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll
To,
second
Talk
that.
about it.
The motion is
I
to
don't
move it
mind.
up from 1 year to 2 years. So,
I don't mind seconding that, but that's I don't want to open the floodgates for every title. I was always very protective of the residency requirements, but I do understand the issues we're dealing with right now are some that I've never seen. So,
Okay,
and that's why I would second it.
Well, historically, it's always been brought, but every time we brought this subject up, I always felt as though most of the members feel the 1 year is that much of a problem to keep it that way. But I'll entertain the motion and you people can all vote on it.
okay.
Well, can I, before we get there, maybe this is unorthodox, but I don't understand the point of these things at all, right? We need good employees. We should be hiring the best employees. Why do we restrict our workforce? Why do we give some arbitrary benefit to somebody based upon where their house is, right? If you've got a good employee, so a potential employee, and they live across one river or another, who cares, right? We want the best people for these jobs. And I just don't understand who is it benefiting? It's not benefiting us as employers to restrict our field of potential employees and just, so that there could be a good employee out there who's from some other county and we don't hire them. We should be getting the most qualified person. I just don't even understand the utility of this, saying, oh, you got to live here in Albany County to work for the county. Why? How's that? We just take that as an article of whatever, that's the way it's got to be. Somebody's got to explain why that is. So I'd say I'll give you 3 years. I'll always vote for any of these because unless I ever hear the utility of why it matters, why we need a nurse who lives in Albany County as opposed to living in Rensselaer or whatever.
Just to note, this is per the legislature's rules since 2011. That's when the residency requirement was adopted as a full requirement. Prior to that time, since 1995, there was optional residency with a required time to move in. So
for every position, for every job?
My understanding is every job in the county, yes. With the exception of where ones were granted waivers by the personnel committee.
I mean, where else is that there's tons of municipalities, tons of jobs where that's not a requirement. In Bethlehem, there's teachers, they don't live in Bethlehem and nobody cares.
Yeah, but this is not education. Education has never existed. It's always, I think almost every one of the municipalities has this. and they make a big deal out of it. So I'm kind of with you, but just to, sort of answer your question, I think everybody's doing it. And it's fairly common. I don't know that we can tackle that tonight, but
Well, we're not-
certainly you bring up a good point.
Yeah, I know we're not going to tackle it tonight, but it's always been with me, like why we do this, and it's kind of come up tonight. And so I'll just let you know my feeling that it's never been explained to me what possible benefit this has to anything.
As a point of reference, also state law does require that public officers generally be electorates of the area they are serving. So there's that, and perhaps that's what it jumped off from. I can't obviously speak to the origins of it in the county, but we can certainly look into it as we move forward.
Okay.
Well,
Mr.
I
Grimm and
recall,
Mr. Ward have their hands up again, Mr. Ethier.
okay, Mr. Grimm, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Jeff, that might be an idea for a resolution to propose, because I think this is a good discussion to have. Because I like the idea of including county employees, but it does narrow your search. You narrow your net significantly, especially when hiring and retaining employees has really become a significant factor. So that's something I would, consider. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sean?
Well, I didn't mean it. I don't really want to get into a huge debate on this, but I respectfully disagree with my colleagues on this. We've seen many times over the years when there were a lot more prospective employees than jobs. And if we were to open the floodgates for them to be hired outside of the county, we have 310,000 people living in Albany County, and there's times when jobs are tight. And I'm confident that we can normally find qualified help within the county. Now, there is times over the years that we have offered waivers when there is a time when we can't find qualified help. And the Personnel Committee has been very good about that. I've been on the Personnel Committee since day one. So I know that we have never shut out department heads that were looking for qualified employees from a waiver. But there's 310,000 people in our county. And in most cases, you can find qualified help within the county. I will say that now is definitely a unordinary time. I would be more receptive to waivers now than I have been in the past. But that could change in a year. I wouldn't want to open the floodgates on that. And the other issue is a lot of our employees are on call. So I certainly wouldn't want to hire somebody 2 counties over, and they get called out in the middle of the night, and we got to wait 2 hours for them to show up on the scene. That's something you got to take into consideration too. And I think one of the reasons why there is residency requirements.
Mr.
Also,
Ethier, Mr.
yeah,
Joyce and Mr. Drake have their hands raised.
I want to step in for 1 second here to jump on with Sean. I tend to agree with Sean saying, and also like the 40 years I've been here, through the years, maybe not as much now, a lot of people being hired from the outside. We had a lot of complaints from our own residents why they weren't hired, especially when the qualifications were equal and they would have been just as good an employee as the outsiders. And also at one time there was a big debate on the executive committee, hiring outside people for commissioner jobs rather than residents of the county. So there's a big issue behind all this that maybe that's going away now, but there was a purpose for this thing. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Go ahead, whoever's next, Rebecca.
Mr. Drake.
Oh, thank you. Just to echo Mr. Ward's comments, it does seem like the intent of this is to provide preference for Albany County residents. And it's really one of the only functional mechanisms available in order to do that in a practical manner. But I've been on the Personnel Committee, I think my tenure so far, and we've always granted waivers when department heads come in. And I think that give and take makes a lot of sense. And, so Mr. Kuhn, I think the answer really comes down to the fact that when push comes to shove, we'd like to give preference to our taxpayers, our constituents. And then if we don't have qualified help in those rare instances or in job markets like this, then we go with the waivers. And thank you, Mr. Ward, for bringing up the excellent point about anybody who might have a timeliness issue and so forth. Those positions probably shouldn't be considered for waivers unless absolutely necessary. So thank you.
All right. Welcome.
Who's next, Rebecca?
Ray, did you still have your hand up or no?
I did, but Mr. Ward made my point and Mr. Drake followed it. It's, just like they said, the city of Albany has a residency requirement. And, if it comes down, and Mr. Kuhn is right, we want to hire the best available people for these positions. But if it comes down to the two best available, one from Albany County, one from outside, I want to make sure we have a process in place that hires those that have invested in Albany County, those that have a stake in Albany County. So, anyways, thanks, Mr. Ward. Mr. Drake.
Right, but that's
Point
not
of
the way
order.
it works. Hold on. I'm sorry. If we're telling people you can't even consider people from other counties, right? Like you have to, without this waiver, you can't hire anybody from outside of Albany County. So it isn't a situation where, hey, I've got two equally qualified potential employees, and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to break that tie for the person who lives in Albany. The pool of potential employees can't even include someone from outside of Albany County. So, I understand people saying, hey, we want to benefit our own taxpayers. I guess I get that. But we benefit our taxpayers by hiring the best people for these positions. And again, I don't see the benefit of having these arbitrary limits to say, hey, our pool of potential employees has to be restricted to only people in Albany County, right? For any particular position, you're hamstringing yourself when you've got a job and then you say, okay, well, I can only people from inside the county can apply for it. There's all these potentially great employees who you don't even get an opportunity to talk to because they don't live in the county and they're not even eligible for a position. And these aren't policy-making positions where where I understand why you'd want someone in an executive or an officer position to be from Albany County. But for non-policy making positions, just sort of general employees, I don't see the benefit. But again, I don't want to hijack the meeting. I'm sorry, Lynn, I cut you off. It's your turn.
Point of order.
Yep.
I don't know what we're voting on, and we have to do it soon because our time is running out. So we can talk for a long time about this, I'm sure, for a long time.
I think there's a motion on the floor.
Which motion is it? Is it the 2
When I say 2
extension?
years, to go to 2 years to get the waiver.
And I seconded it.
And yeah, Sean seconded, yeah.
Aye.
So shall we vote on that?
Yeah, let's call
Yeah.
the question on that.
Mr. Ethier?
Nay.
Aye.
Oh, do you want me to do a roll or did you want to call the?
Oh, yeah, do a roll. That's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Mr. Ethier then, on the motion of extending it to the end of, to 12/31/2023.
No,
Mr. Ethier.
I'm content with it being the 1 year, so I'll vote the no on it.
All right, Kuhn,
Aye.
Drake,
Yes.
Grimm,
Yes.
Joyce,
Yes.
Lakakis,
Sure.
Reedy,
Aye.
and Ward.
Yes.
That is 7 yeses to 1 no. The motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. What's next, Rebecca?
We actually have to have a motion to move it forward now that it's been amended.
Oh, okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
I'm
All in
sorry?
favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right.
All right, that is the last item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
And
you.
go to the
Everybody
next
have
meeting.
a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes,
Yeah,
you too.
good discussion.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gil. Good
Bye
discussion.
now.
Have a
Can't
great
wait